All right, so we've looked at the state court structure, so now we're going to go ahead and look at the United States federal court structure. When the federal government set up its court structure, the states followed its example. So the U.S. government set up its judicial branch, and after that, all the states set up theirs. So they're very similar. The district court for the United States government is the lowest court, and it's a trial court. So if you have violated federal law, then it's going to be tried here at the U.S. District Court. And every state pretty much has district courts in them that are federal. North Carolina has 2, but you would either go to like Raleigh or Charlotte. Because we live in Fayetteville, you would go to the Raleigh one, but that's where the district courts are. So there's 94 district courts in our country, and you would be sent to go be tried at one, and they would hear your case. So it's the lowest court, it's a trial court, and yes, they do have judges and juries. So we kind of talked about this prior. You could have jury duty in state courts, but you could also have it in federal court. It just depends. But they're going to hear criminal and they're going to hear civil cases. So they hear lawsuits. So if you are suing someone in another state, it would be heard here at the United States District Court. So you're from North Carolina, you're suing someone from Virginia, it's going to be here at the District Court. There's no appellate jurisdiction, they only have original jurisdiction. So they're going to hear a case for the first time. They'll hear a lawsuit, a criminal case for the first time. They're going to make the first ruling on it. Now, if you don't like the way things proceeded, there was an error you feel in your case, you can have it appealed up to the United States Court of Appeals, or also known as our circuit court. In the United States Court of Appeals, they're going to hear cases from the district court. So you've appealed it up here, they're going to hear it. They're looking at procedural stuff. Was something wrong? So they can uphold the decision, and when they uphold it, it's good. They felt like everything went right. They could remand it, and when they remand it, they're going to send it back to the lower court for it to be reviewed, to look back at, see if things were wrong, be retried. They could also reverse the ruling, and that means they're going to throw it out. The lower court was wrong. So when you look at the United States Court of Appeals, it's very similar to the North Carolina Court of Appeals. They do the same thing. And there's judges only in this. You know, again, we want experts on the law. We want experts on how courts and the legal proceedings is supposed to go. The highest court in our country is the United States Supreme Court. And it is the, final say in the Constitution. It's the final say in the land. So the U.S. Supreme Court, we went over a lot of those court cases already, but it is the highest court in our country. They have appellate jurisdiction. They hear decisions, they hear rulings from lower courts, and they're going to determine if they're good or not. And so they'll issue a writ of certiorari, and remember, that's just them agreeing to hear the case, and it's 4 of the justices. There's 9 justices for the United States Supreme Court. 4 of them have got to agree to hear the case. They're like, nope, we really need to weigh in on this, and they'll do that. And they're looking at whether something was violated, something wasn't done properly. Like, if they've ruled on something like that in the past, they're not going to deal with it again. If it's something that is new, something that they have never ruled on before, they would probably go ahead and maybe want to hear that. It just depends, okay? But 4 of them got to be interested in it. When they are making their decisions, what they're doing is they're looking at whether the law is constitutional or not. And they do have limited original jurisdiction. So they do hear some stuff for the very first time. Things that they would hear for the first time would be constitutional issues. So this is pretty much our United States federal court structure. This is the lowest, and then it moves up. So what kind of cases are actually heard in our federal court system? Anything that deals with the United States Constitution. So we've talked about like Miranda versus Arizona. Well, that's definitely a constitutional issue. You know, do police officers have to read suspects their rights? Well, the Supreme Court ruled, yeah, they do. Okay. They also look at things like violation of federal laws. So, did you or someone violate the U.S. government's laws? If so, it would be tried in a federal court. If there is a disagreement between two states, it's going to be in the federal court. Like, if you think about it, if the state of North Carolina and Virginia don't agree on a border, well, if you had the case here in North Carolina, it's probably going to be ruled in our favor. And if you had the case in Virginia, it's probably going to be ruled in Virginia's favor. So, to stop that, you're going to have the federal court, the U.S. government, weighing in on it, and that would make it fair. Lawsuits between citizens of two different states, same thing. You know, it's the same thing as the state argument. You're going to want someone who's kind of more impartial on the citizens to rule in on it. The U.S. government also, like if you're suing them, and people do sue the U.S. government, so it'll be you versus the U.S. government, and that would be something that the federal court structure would hear. Or the government is suing you. So it'll say U.S. versus your name. So the government does sue people as well. So like they might come after someone for maybe violating this or that when it comes to maybe like human rights or something. Or they're suing a company. So that would be a case that the federal court system would hear. A dispute between a person and a foreign country. So you and another country, like let's say England, are suing each other. Well, they would hear it. Any admiralty and maritime laws. So this would be like our ocean stuff. That's maritime ocean. So anything like that, they would hear it. And anything dealing with the United States diplomats. So our representatives in foreign countries that we send, like we have diplomats around the world. They represent U.S. interest. And remember, the point of diplomats is, you know, like all the stuff going on, the president is not able to always meet with all these foreign leaders. So they might have the diplomat, you know, go ahead and be the first contact. They're already in the country. They know about the culture, the custom, the history of the country. They probably have a good relationship with the government, or they have some sort of relationship with the government, and they would be like the first contact. And so if anything happens to our diplomats when they're in a foreign country, they've done something they shouldn't have done, it's going to be tried in a United States federal court. So I hope this helps you understand the structure of our courts. And we'll be looking at criminal and civil lawsuits in just a little bit.